Hello, and welcome back to Speak English Daily.
Hi, everyone. We are very happy to see you here today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speak English Daily, where we make English simple, clear, and part of your everyday life. I'm Anna.
And I'm Mike. Hello to all our amazing listeners around the world. Wherever you are right now, thanks for spending a little time with us.
So, Mike, how are you these days?
Honestly, I think I've become a very serious person recently.
That sounds a little dangerous. What happened?
I started planning my entire week every Sunday night. I write down everything, my goals, my tasks, even when I'm going to relax.
Wait, you plan when to relax?
Yes, very important. Tuesday, 7:30 p.m., relax.
That does not sound relaxing at all.
Well, I watched a video about successful people, and it said you need to plan everything if you want a better future.
Another life-changing video.
Not just any video. This one said that people who think about the future make better decisions every day.
Okay, that part I agree with, but let me ask you something. Do you feel different after planning everything?
Honestly, I just feel a little stressed. Yesterday, I was 5 minutes late to my relax time.
That is impressive in a very strange way.
Thank you. I try my best.
But what you said actually connects to today's topic, because today we're going to talk about something really important: visionary thinking versus short-term thinking.
Visionary thinking. That sounds big. What does it mean?
Good question. Let's break it down in a simple way. Visionary thinking means you focus on the future. You think about where you want to go, not just what is happening today.
So it's like having a long-term vision for your life?
Yes, exactly. A vision is like a picture of your future, and a visionary thinker makes decisions today based on that future.
Okay, and short-term thinking?
Short-term thinking is the opposite. It focuses only on the present moment, what feels easy right now, what gives quick results, what solves today's problem without thinking too much about tomorrow.
So one is future-focused and the other is present-focused.
Right. And here's something very important. This is not about intelligence.
Not about being smart or not smart?
No, a very intelligent person can still think only in the short term, and someone with average skills can be very visionary.
That's interesting.
It's also not about how successful you are right now. You can have a great job, good income, and still make short-term decisions all the time.
So this is really about how you think.
Exactly. This is about your thinking style, the way you look at situations, the way you make choices, and what you focus on.
So it's similar to mindset.
Yes, very similar. It's like the lens you use to see your life. Two people can be in the same situation, but one thinks about the future and the other only thinks about today.
That makes sense. I think I switch between both sometimes.
Most people do. This is not about putting people into two boxes. It's more about understanding your habits.
Okay, so let me check if I understand. Visionary thinking means I ask, how will this affect my future? And short-term thinking means I ask, what do I want right now?
Perfect. That is a very clear way to say it.
I like this topic already. It feels very practical.
It is, because this kind of thinking affects everything: your work, your money, your health, your relationships, even how you spend your free time.
Wow, so it's everywhere.
Everywhere. And today we're going to look at some key differences. Not in a complicated way, just simple situations that we all experience.
Good, because I need simple.
We all do.
So where do we start?
Let's start with something we all deal with every day: problems.
Ah, yes, my favorite topic.
Of course it is.
I have many problems, small ones, big ones, and sometimes problems I create myself.
That last one is very common.
I knew it.
But this is where things get interesting, because the way you handle problems can show whether you are thinking in a visionary way or in a short-term way.
Okay, now I'm curious.
Good, let's get into it. So, Mike, let's imagine a simple situation. You are working on something important, maybe a project, and suddenly something goes wrong.
That already sounds stressful.
Your computer freezes, you lose some of your work, and now you're behind schedule.
Okay, I don't like this situation.
Nobody does. But here's the question. What do you think first?
Honestly, I would probably say, why does this always happen to me?
That is a very human reaction.
Thank you.
But that reaction is usually connected to short-term thinking.
Why?
Because the focus is on the problem itself and the frustration, not on what you can do next.
So I'm just reacting.
Exactly. Now let's look at a different response. A visionary thinker might say, okay, this is not good, but what can I do right now to fix it or reduce the damage?
So they move faster to a solution.
Yes, they don't spend too much time asking why it happened. They focus on what they can control.
That sounds more productive.
It is, and here's a useful word for this, accountable.
Accountable. What does that mean exactly?
When you are accountable, you take responsibility for your actions and your results. You don't wait for someone else to fix things for you.
So even if the problem is not my fault, I still think about what I can do.
Exactly. You don't waste energy blaming. You use your energy to act.
That's not easy.
It's not, but it's a very powerful habit.
Okay, but let me ask something. What if I try to fix the problem and it still doesn't work?
Good question. That brings us to another word, outcome.
Outcome means the result, right?
Yes, the result of what you did. And sometimes the outcome is not what you wanted.
That happens a lot.
A visionary thinker understands that. They might say, that didn't work, but I learned something. Let me try a different way.
So they don't stop.
Exactly. A short-term thinker might say, I tried once, it failed, so it's not worth it.
I think I've done that before.
We all have. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you start going to the gym.
Okay, that's already a big step.
You go for 1 week, maybe 2, and then you don't see big results.
Yes, that's very common. You look in the mirror and nothing has changed.
A short-term thinker might say, this is useless, it's not working, and then stop.
That sounds familiar.
But a visionary thinker understands that the outcome takes time. They think, if I continue for months, I will see results.
So they connect today's actions with future results.
Exactly. That is the key difference.
I like that example. It's very real.
And here's another important word, proactive.
I hear that word a lot, but I'm not always sure what it means.
Being proactive means you act before a problem becomes bigger. You prepare instead of waiting.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's go back to your computer problem. A proactive person regularly saves their work.
Ah, so when the computer crashes, they don't lose everything.
Exactly. They think ahead. They don't wait for the problem to happen.
And a short-term thinker?
They might not save their work. Then when something goes wrong, they react after the damage is already done.
That sounds like me again.
You're being very honest today.
I feel exposed.
But that's good. Awareness is the first step.
So let me try to summarize. A visionary thinker is more accountable, focuses on solutions, accepts the outcome, and is more proactive.
That's a great summary.
And a short-term thinker focuses more on the problem, reacts emotionally, and often stops trying after one bad result.
Yes, that's the pattern.
This is actually very eye-opening. I can see these habits in my daily life.
That's the goal. Once you see it, you can start changing it.
Slowly, I hope.
Always slowly. Small changes over time.
Okay, listeners, quick question for you. When something goes wrong, what is your first reaction? Do you look for a solution, or do you focus on the problem first?
Be honest with yourself. That answer can tell you a lot about your thinking style.
I already know my answer, and I'm not proud of it.
That's okay. You can always improve.
Good, because I need to.
And we're just getting started, because problems are only one part of the story.
I have a feeling the next part will be even more interesting.
It will be.
All right, I'm ready.
We will talk about time and decisions.
That already sounds serious.
It is, because the biggest difference between visionary thinking and short-term thinking is not just how you solve problems, it's how you make decisions with your time.
That makes sense. We all have the same 24 hours.
Exactly. But how you use those hours can lead to very different results over time.
So where do we start?
Let's start with a simple idea. A short-term thinker usually asks, what is easy or comfortable right now?
That sounds like me when I choose between watching a show and doing something productive.
Yes, and a visionary thinker asks a slightly different question. They ask, what will help me in the future?
So one is focused on comfort and the other is focused on progress.
That's a great way to say it.
But sometimes comfort is very attractive.
Of course it is. Nobody wakes up excited to do difficult things all the time.
Good, because I thought something was wrong with me.
Nothing is wrong with you, but the difference is in the decision. A visionary thinker is willing to feel a little uncomfortable now for a better result later.
That sounds like going to the gym again.
Yes, or studying English when you feel tired, or working on a skill instead of scrolling on your phone.
That last one is very real.
Let me introduce a useful word here. Allocate.
Allocate. We used that before for money, right?
Yes, but now we're using it for time. To allocate means to decide how to divide your time between different activities.
So it's like making a plan for your day.
Exactly. A visionary thinker allocates time with intention. They think, I will spend some time learning, some time working, some time resting.
And a short-term thinker?
They often don't allocate their time clearly. The day just happens. One thing leads to another.
That sounds very familiar. You start checking your phone and suddenly 1 hour is gone.
Exactly. And you didn't decide to spend that hour. It just disappeared.
That hurts a little.
It should.
So, allocation is about being intentional with your time.
Yes. And even small changes can make a big difference.
Like what?
For example, imagine you decide to spend just 20 minutes every day learning something new.
That doesn't sound like much.
It doesn't. But this is where the next word comes in. Accumulate.
Accumulate means to slowly collect more and more, right?
Yes, those 20 minutes don't feel important in one day, but after 1 week, you have spent over 2 hours learning.
Okay, that starts to feel more serious.
After 1 month, it's around 10 hours. After a year, it's over 120 hours.
Wow, that adds up quickly.
Exactly. Small actions accumulate over time.
So even small habits matter.
They matter a lot. And here's the interesting part. Just like good habits accumulate, bad habits also accumulate.
Let me guess, scrolling on my phone every day.
Yes. 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. It feels small, but over time it becomes hours and hours.
That is a little scary.
It is, because you don't notice it happening.
So both good and bad habits are growing quietly in the background.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important word, compound.
I've heard that word, but I'm not fully clear on it.
Sure. Imagine you learn 5 new English words every day.
That sounds manageable.
After 1 week, you know 35 new words. After a month, more than 100.
Okay, that's already good.
But here's where it gets interesting. As you learn more words, it becomes easier to learn new ones. You understand more sentences, more conversations, more content.
So your learning speed increases.
Exactly. That is compounding. Your effort today makes your future effort more powerful.
I like that idea. It feels encouraging.
It should, because it means small, consistent actions can lead to big results.
And I guess the opposite is also true.
Yes. If you don't practice, if you don't learn, you stay at the same level, or sometimes you even go backward.
So short-term thinking ignores compounding.
Often, yes. A A short-term thinker might say, "This small action doesn't matter," and skip it.
But a visionary thinker says this small action will grow over time.
Exactly.
This reminds me of something. Sometimes I start learning something new, like a language or a skill, and after a few days I feel like I'm not improving.
That's very common.
And then I lose motivation.
That's because you're looking for quick results. That is short-term thinking.
So I expect big changes too quickly.
Yes, but real growth usually feels slow at the beginning.
That makes sense, like planting a seed.
Perfect example. You plant a seed, and for a while you don't see anything.
But something is happening under the ground.
Exactly. Roots are growing, and then one day you start to see results.
So visionary thinking is like trusting the process.
Yes, trusting that your actions today are building something for the future.
I like that. It feels more patient.
It is patient, but it's also very practical.
So let me try to summarize again. A visionary thinker allocates their time carefully, understands that small actions accumulate, and believes in compounding results.
That's a very strong summary.
And a short-term thinker focuses on immediate comfort, doesn't plan their time clearly, and expects fast results.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
What pattern?
Visionary thinking is not about doing big, dramatic things. It's about small, consistent decisions.
That's exactly right.
That actually makes it feel more achievable.
It should, because anyone can start with small changes.
Even me?
Even you.
Okay, I feel a little more hopeful now.
Good. That's the point.
All right, listeners, let's make this personal. Think about your daily routine. Where do you spend most of your time?
And ask yourself, are you allocating your time, or is your time just disappearing?
And one more question. What is one small habit you can start today that will accumulate over time?
It doesn't need to be big, just something simple and consistent.
Because as we just learned, small actions can grow into big results.
Exactly.
I think this might be my favorite part so far.
We're not done yet.
Of course we're not.
So far, we've talked about problems and how people react to them, and we've talked about time and decisions. Now, we're going to look at something that connects both of those ideas.
Let me guess. Something uncomfortable?
Very uncomfortable.
I knew it.
We're going to talk about growth and risk.
Okay, I'm already thinking about all the things I avoided this week.
That's a good place to start.
I prefer not to start there, but go ahead.
Here's the idea. A visionary thinker understands that growth usually requires some level of risk.
Risk meaning something could go wrong?
Yes, risk means there is uncertainty. You are not completely sure what will happen.
That's exactly why I don't like it.
Most people don't. That's normal. But the difference is how you respond to that feeling.
So what does a visionary thinker do?
A visionary thinker is willing to take calculated risks.
Calculated risks. That sounds important. What does that mean?
It means you don't act blindly or randomly. You think about the situation, you understand the possible outcomes, and then you decide to move forward anyway.
So it's not about being careless.
Not at all. It's about being thoughtful, but still taking action.
Okay, I like that. It sounds less scary.
It should, because being bold does not mean being reckless.
Ah, bold. There's that word.
Yes. Bold means being brave enough to try something new or difficult, even if you feel a little fear.
So you feel the fear, but you don't stop because of it.
Exactly. You move forward with awareness, not with fear controlling you.
That sounds nice in theory. In real life, it's a bit harder.
Of course it is. Let's make it more real. Think about trying something new, like speaking English with someone for the first time.
That is definitely scary.
You might think, what if I make mistakes? What if I sound strange?
I've had those thoughts many times.
A short-term thinker might avoid that situation completely. They stay quiet because it feels safer.
Yes, because in the short term, you avoid embarrassment.
Exactly. But what happens in the long term?
You don't improve.
Right. Now, a visionary thinker might feel the same fear, but they say, if I practice speaking now, I will improve over time.
So they accept the discomfort.
Yes, they are willing to feel a little uncomfortable now for a better future result.
That connects perfectly with what we talked about before.
It all connects. That's the point.
Okay, but let me be honest. Sometimes I tell myself I'll try something new, and then at the last moment, I change my mind.
That's very common.
For example, last week I thought about joining a group class. I even opened the website,
That sounds promising.
and then I closed it.
That sounds less promising.
I told myself, maybe next week.
And how many times have you said that?
Too many times.
That is a perfect example of short-term thinking. In that moment, you chose comfort,
Yes, I chose not to feel nervous.
but you also delayed your growth.
When you say it like that, it sounds bad.
It's not bad, it's just honest.
Okay, fair.
Now let's talk about another word, mediocre.
Mediocre. I've heard that before. It means average.
Yes, not very good, not very bad, just okay. Nothing exciting, nothing special.
That sounds a bit boring.
It is. And here's the important part. When you always choose comfort, you often stay in a mediocre place.
Because you're not pushing yourself.
Exactly. You're not growing, you're just maintaining.
I think a lot of people live like that.
Yes, because it feels safe. There is no risk, no pressure, but also no progress.
Right. A visionary thinker is usually not satisfied with mediocre.
Not because they want something big and dramatic, but because they want improvement.
Exactly. They want to learn, to experience new things, to grow step by step.
So they are willing to take small risks regularly. Yes, and that's the key. Not huge, scary risks all the time, just small, consistent steps outside their comfort zone.
That feels more manageable.
It is. Let's take another simple example. Imagine you want to start a new habit, like waking up earlier.
Okay, I already have a complicated relationship with that idea.
I can tell.
Please continue.
A short-term thinker might try once, feel tired, and say, "This is not for me."
That sounds like something I would say.
A visionary thinker might say, "This is difficult now, but if I continue, it will become easier."
So again, they think about the future result.
Yes, and they are willing to be a little uncomfortable in the beginning.
I'm noticing a pattern here. Discomfort is always part of growth.
Exactly. Not extreme discomfort, but enough to challenge you.
So if everything feels easy all the time, that might be a problem,
It might mean you are staying in your comfort zone.
which leads to a mediocre result.
Yes.
I don't like that word anymore.
Good. That means it's working.
But let me ask something important. How do you know if a risk is worth taking?
That's a great question. This is where calculated becomes important. You ask yourself, what is the possible benefit? What is the possible downside? And what can I learn even if it doesn't work?
So even a bad result can still have value.
Yes, because you gain experience.
That changes how I see failure.
It should. Failure is often just part of the process.
Okay, I feel like I need to do something bold after this episode.
That's a good feeling.
Maybe I'll go back to that class website.
And this time?
I'll try not to close it.
That sounds like progress.
Small, but real.
Exactly what we want.
All right, listeners, your turn again. Think about something you've been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable.
Maybe it's speaking English, starting a new habit, or trying something new.
Ask yourself, are you choosing comfort or are you choosing growth?
And what is one small, bold step you can take this week?
Not something huge, just one step.
Because those small steps can change a lot over time.
I think I'm ready to take one.
Let's slow down for a moment and make this personal.
Yes, because we've talked about a lot of ideas and now it's time to connect them to real life.
Exactly. So, listeners, we want you to think about your own daily habits.
Not in a stressful way, just in an honest way.
Right. Let's start with a simple question. When you face a problem, what is your first reaction?
Do you look for a solution or do you focus on what went wrong?
And remember, there is no perfect answer here. This is just about awareness.
Okay, next question. How do you use your time every day?
Are you allocating your time, or are you just reacting to whatever happens?
Think about your last 24 hours. Where did your time really go?
And one more important question. When you make decisions, are you thinking about your future or only about what feels easy right now?
That one is a little uncomfortable.
It is, but it's also very powerful.
And here's another one. What is something you know you should do, but you keep avoiding?
Maybe it's learning something new, starting a habit, or taking a small risk.
And why are you avoiding it? Is it because it feels difficult or uncertain?
That's where the difference between short-term and visionary thinking becomes very clear.
So take a moment and be honest with yourself.
And then ask yourself one final question. What is one small change you can make starting today?
Not something big, just one small step.
Because, as we said before, small actions can grow into big results.
And that's how real change begins.
Exactly. All right, Mike, I think it's time to review the key words we learned today.
Yes, let's go through them one by one.
First, mindset or thinking style. This is the way you think about situations and make decisions. Your thinking style affects how you see your future.
Next, accountable. When you are accountable, you take responsibility for your actions and results. You don't wait for others to fix things for you.
Outcome. The outcome is the result of something you did. Sometimes the outcome is good, sometimes it is not, but you can always learn from it.
Proactive. Being proactive means you act before a problem becomes bigger. You prepare instead of waiting.
Allocate. To allocate means to decide how to use your time or energy. For example, you can allocate time every day to learning something new.
Accumulate. When something accumulates, it grows little by little over time. Small daily habits can accumulate into big results.
Compound. When something compounds, it grows faster over time. Your efforts today can make your future efforts more effective.
Bold. Being bold means you are willing to try something new or difficult, even if you feel a little fear.
Mediocre. Mediocre means not very good, not very bad, just average. Many people stay in a mediocre place because they avoid risk.
And finally, visionary thinking versus short-term thinking. Visionary thinking focuses on the future and long-term results, while short-term thinking focuses on immediate comfort and quick results.
Great job! Those are powerful words, and more importantly, powerful ideas.
And the best part is, you can start using them in your daily life right away.
Exactly. So let's bring everything together.
Yes, let's do a quick summary.
Today, we talked about the difference between visionary thinking and short-term thinking.
We learned that it's not about intelligence or how successful you are right now. It's about how you think and how you make decisions.
A visionary thinker focuses on solutions, takes responsibility, and thinks about the future.
They allocate their time carefully, understand that small actions accumulate, and trust that results will compound over time.
They are also willing to be bold and take small risks, even when it feels uncomfortable.
On the other hand, short-term thinking focuses on immediate comfort, reacts to problems, and often avoids difficulty.
And when we stay in that pattern for too long, life can become mediocre. But the good news is, this is something you can change.
Yes, step by step, with small decisions every day.
You don't need to change everything at once. Just start with one small action.
Maybe today, maybe right after this episode.
Because your future is built by what you do now, and even small choices can lead to big changes over time.
All right, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Speak English Daily and share it with someone who might find it helpful.
And if you can, take a moment to practice speaking some of the words we learned today.
Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep thinking about your future.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone. Goodbye.